Hey, what's going on, guys? It is FoxyDude98 here, and welcome to pretty much the debate. Today, as you can tell probably by the title of the video, obviously we are doing the debate. We're going to be debating stuff in Formula 1. Potentially maybe put it into a series later down the line if you guys like to enjoy the debate. But who we're talking about today is in fact the hat that I'm actually wearing. We're talking about these bad boys. We're talking about Mercedes-Benz at the Russian Grand Prix after their team orders propaganda scandal, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, so for today's video then, I'm going to be going ahead, I'm going to be discussing the team orders, pulling out as much facts as I can from both sides of the camps, and basically saying if it was really right that they used them in the first place. So, if you guys have been living under a rock recently, you would have known that Mercedes-Benz used team orders at the Russian Grand Prix on Sunday that allowed Lewis Hamilton to win the Russian Grand Prix and extend his championship lead to 50 points, rather than it being extended to 43, which it would have been if Bottas stayed ahead and won the Grand Prix ahead of Hamilton and then Vettel in third. But if you guys are unaware of the race went as simple as this. Mercedes-Benz locked out the front row, with Bottas and Hamilton managing to get the front row lockout. Bottas, however, got pole position. Now, Hamilton was faster than Bottas in all the practice sessions, Q1 and Q2. But he failed to outqualify Bottas in Q3. Bottas put in a phenomenal lap. Hamilton was going quicker than Bottas on his final lap, but he made a mistake into turn 7. That's his fault. Bottas deserved pole position because he was the better man on the day. Into the race, and Bottas got a better start than Lewis, but Lewis slipstreamed Valtteri, but didn't go around the outside into turn 2 and was left on the defensive. After all of that happened, the race just sort of panned itself out. They were just, driving their own race, really. Mercedes called in Bottas at the right time. They called him in as #1 driver status, allowing him to have first priority on the pit stop. So he came in. Hamilton and Vettel stayed out a lap longer. Vettel then came in, but Hamilton stayed out even longer, another lap. And that's where really the team order scandal came into its proper play. Lewis Hamilton was purple in the first sector on his what could have been technically his in-lap against Valtteri Bottas. So when Bottas pitted, Hamilton then went out and stayed another lap. And on that lap that he stayed out, he was the fastest man of anybody in the first sector of the entire Grand Prix, and he set a green middle sector, which is the personal best middle sector. If he came in that lap and pitted the same as Vettel, there is a high probability that Hamilton may potentially have done the overcut on Valtteri Bottas, but Mercedes decided to leave Lewis Hamilton out, and that was the wrong call. On the next lap then, Bottas was like 0.6 of a second faster, and then that caused a lot of problems here and there. Hamilton pitted and he rejoined behind Sebastian Vettel. Now, once he rejoined behind Vettel, well, he needed to get past him, so he pushed hard to get past him. He did so in a fantastic overtake. Vettel made a small mistake into turn 13. That gave Hamilton a little bit of an advantage. He had the DRS. Vettel defended extremely aggressively into turn 2. If you wanted to know how I thought of it, of course, I'm wearing Mercedes gear. I am a Mercedes fan. This is really weird trying to debate this, but I have plenty of arguments for both, and I'm going to be as unbiased as possible, and I'm taking this from a racing fan perspective, not a Mercedes fan perspective. Putting that out there as a disclaimer. But Vettel defended extremely aggressively on Hamilton. Did I think it was an aggressive defensive maneuver? Yes. Do I think it was a naughty defensive maneuver? No, I really don't think it was. Vettel, he moved over and Hamilton was going to go to the inside, and then Vettel sort of moved over again. Technically, it's 2 moves, but I don't know, just didn't really think there was going to be any space to go down the inside, to be honest. And he still got the overtake done on the next corner. And then he pushed away from Vettel to then build an advantage to help him out and actually get in front of Seb. However, by doing this, he blistered the left rear tyre. Well, blistered the left rear tyre, because obviously that's what Mercedes used their excuse for. Now, Paul di Resta made a very interesting statement at the start of the Grand Prix. Now, when Max Verstappen was making his charge through the field, obviously Paul was saying, Max has got to be careful, he doesn't blister the tyres, because in Friday, we saw that they do blister. Whereas Hamilton, in this case, obviously pushed really hard on his first few laps on those tyres, that he did accidentally blister them. Now, that's his own fault there, unfortunately, and it meant that he was in a bit of trouble. Now, Max Verstappen, speaking of him, drove one of the best races I've ever seen him drive in his entire career. Was a little bit of a thorn in the sides here. So he was in the lead of the race. Bottas was in second. Hamilton was third, Vettel fourth. Bottas had just started to close up to Verstappen, and he sort of was now in that turbulent air range, so was a little bit, struggling a little bit, and was biding his time to get past. Hamilton's blister was sort of apparently getting worse, and Vettel was preparing to attack. But then again, if Vettel tried to attack Hamilton, he would have the blistering problems that Lewis would have because he'd have to push hard to attack him. So I don't know about that one. I really don't. I don't believe the blistering thing. It's maybe true, but I don't really believe it. So what they decided to do was to let Hamilton in front of Valtteri. So it meant that if Lewis's blistering got even worse, Bottas could back up Vettel. So then they've got a buffer in there. So the purpose of the team order act was so that Lewis Hamilton could get a buffer in case Vettel struck against him. So it meant that Bottas was there, planted perfectly in the middle, so if Vettel was going to do anything, he'd use up and waste his tyres trying to get past Valtteri rather than trying to get past Lewis, his main championship contender. So he had to be a bit more careful on that one. But overall, it sucked seeing the team. It really sucked seeing them come in, but it was kind of right at the same time. So I'm going to go into reasons why this was right, reasons why it was wrong. Also on my phone as well, I set up a YouTube community post, and I wanted you guys to get involved in it and make sure that you had your say as well. And when I say have your say, there was 2,800 people that voted in the poll out of what I said, and there was 109 comments of just all you guys, literally just loads and loads of them. They're still going through. This is all you guys putting in everything you've got to say. So yeah, it's going to be hard that I don't really, I can't read every single one of you because you've all just gone crazy on them, but we're going to go through them, and I've also put in a couple of other reports in there as well because I wanted to make this video a couple of days afterwards because I wanted to make sure that everything had been brought out into perspective before I class my debate. But before we go into you guys and before we go into anything else like that, and if you're wondering why my lock screen is an Irish Red Setter, that is my dog that passed away a while ago. Anyway, moving away from that. That's more of a different reason. Anyway, put that aside. Just in case you're wondering, why is there a dog as his lock screen? Yeah, pretty much about that. Anyway, but going off topic now. So what do we think then? What do I think of the team orders? Do I think it was the right decision? Do I think it was the wrong decision? So for me, overall, this is the way you have to think of it. To win the World Drivers' Championship, you've got to beat your opponent. And if that means that your teammate is not in the championship fight anymore, and it means that if you swap them over and it gives you more points to help even more and increase your championship statement even more, I think it's perfectly viable. For me, I feel like team orders are wrong in a very big way. They basically enable Formula 1 to become an arranged sport. In Formula 1, when it comes to racing, we never know what's going to happen in Formula 1. We don't know if Vettel's going to have a tyre failure. We don't know if he's going to have any problems mechanically. And that's the same with every single driver on the grid. Let's take Toro Rosso for an example. They both retired on lap 6 with brake failures. Like, we never knew that was going to happen to their cars. And we don't know it's going to happen to the front runners as well. So for me, what Mercedes did was right. However, for a racing fan, it was disgusting at the same time. So I'm trying to balance it out. As a neutral act, we want to see racers going at it head to head. And when we saw Vettel and Lewis Hamilton fighting it out, we loved it. We were over the moon. I was celebrating because I want Hamilton to win. I do, and I'll be honest and say that. You know, there's people that watch my videos that want Vettel to win, and I respect that, and I respect anyone for any views they have as long as they're in a mature manner. If not, then go away. But for me, that was what racing felt like. It was two championship contenders who are in the championship fight that had an incredible battle. Yeah, it was only a lap or so, but who really cares? But it was an incredible fight, and we didn't get to really witness that further because Valtteri was sort of there trying to help Hamilton for the win, and he sort of moved by. I think what made me more frustrated about the entire team order situation was how Valtteri let him through. When I watched that Grand Prix and I saw Valtteri let him through, I honestly thought Valtteri had a problem with his car. That's how slow he was going to let Hamilton through because he was quite a far distance ahead. He was about 2 seconds clear. And the fact that he slowed down so much, I honestly thought, oh, Jesus Christ, Valtteri Bottas, with all of his bad luck again, he's got another problem. There goes the 1-2 for Mercedes-Benz. But no, it was just team orders. I knew it was going to happen as soon as qualifying finished. If Mercedes were 1-2 and Vettel was in P3, I put it out as a poll again. Do you think that they'll use team orders? And I said it in my poll, in my community post. I literally said, you know, are they going to use it? And I literally said, you know, if Vettel's in P3, they're going to use it. You won't be able to see it, obviously, on here, but I don't really know. I can move it forward. Yeah, so let me try and get the focus on that. So you can see at the bottom there, if Vettel has a bad race, don't think they will, but if he's P3, then unfortunately, I think they will. So that's, I literally said, you know, if Vettel's in third, they will use team orders. For me, if they were going to use it, I think they should have done it at the start. Bottas was being slipstreamed by Hamilton. What they should have done is Valtteri should have just let off the gas a little bit. Hamilton could have breezed on through and gone around the outside and made it a nice clean move. And then, you know, Hamilton can run and control his race. And then you would never talk about team orders then. You think, right, so, you know, Lewis Hamilton wins the Russian Grand Prix after overtaking Bottas at the start of the race. And you think, maybe he let off the gas a little bit, and then those little theories would come into play. But the fact that they made it so blatant and so obvious was wrong in every single way possible. And as a racer, I was like, Vettel is, you know, Hamilton's got blistering now. This is going to get exciting. Is Vettel going to get past him? What's Bottas going to do? Is Bottas going to struggle? Will Hamilton try and pass Bottas? What is he going to get desperate? You know, what's he going to try? And it's just like, yeah, there you go. Goodbye. See you later. Race 1 now. I'll hold at Vettel and do the rest. I think what the problem is we didn't get to see them race. The purpose of what we watch is we watch racing. We don't watch arranged stuff. However, taking all of that aside, Mercedes-Benz are a team. And that is a big quotation mark for it. They are a team. It's just like Ferrari did it in Germany. Mercedes did it as well. But again, that was kind of a different reason, which I will move on to. Mercedes-Benz are working this is a team sport. This is weird. It's really, really weird. The Constructors' Championship is for the team. And in this situation, the team needs to do what is best. And I don't think it was the right choice in some circumstances, but Lewis needs to win the World Championship for Mercedes' sake. He's the only one that can do it for Mercedes now. Bottas is not in the title picture. And at the end of the day, in terms of the Constructors' Championship, in terms of that team aspect of things, not only will Mercedes benefit from still retaining that 1-2 finish, but also Hamilton will then get extra points and Vettel will struggle even more, cementing Hamilton's place in the championship. Now, the question is, 43 points, is that any different to having 50 points in the championship? Well, it kind of is. It's a massive difference. One of those races, if Hamilton DNFs from that Grand Prix, the gap is 18 points in the championship. Vettel is right back in the fight then with 18 points. It can go either way. If Hamilton DNFs with 50 points advantage, he's then got 25 points. And it's a lot more comfortable because he can afford another DNF and still get away with it. So for me, it's a tough one. Like, team orders will never get banned from Formula 1. They won't get policed either. They tried to police it in 2010 when they banned it, but it just didn't work. And I think what we can finally admit is Formula 1 is hardcore racing, but in some circumstances, we have to think of a team as well. It's like on a football pitch as well, you know? You've got teams that will play park the bus. They will sit all the way back. They will defend. They will frustrate their opponents so much. They'll have every single person hanging from the goal bar, you know, from the crossbar, not getting it go in. And then they'll go ahead to have one counter-attack and then sweat it and score. That is like a dirty style play. Or they may be one of those teams that just snaps everyone, fouls everyone, constantly gives away free kicks, frustrates their opponents, and then scores one goal, passes it around the back. It's like playing FIFA. It's the same thing. You play it dirty, but you play it to win, and it's fair and it's legal. And in this circumstance, Mercedes played the team game perfectly. I'm sorry, they played it perfectly. And I did not like it. I wanted them to fight it out, but at the end of the day, they had to do something. But annoyingly, what makes me even more frustrated is now I'm moving on to what they said after the race, Hamilton and Bottas. This is what turns me against the team order scenario. Hamilton, after the Grand Prix, in fact, I think I've got the report on my phone because, again, I wanted to make sure I'm prepared for this one. After the Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton, when he was talking about the entire situation, he was stating, you know, how he felt that this was not the way he wanted to win. He didn't like it. He didn't like the fact that Bottas had to let him through, and he didn't want the race victory given to him necessarily. He wants to fight for it, and I respect that, and that's what all racing drivers want to do. What makes me really disgusted about Mercedes-Benz and their actions is they never said they were going to use team orders for the Grand Prix. They didn't say it once. During the pre-race briefing, they're not allowed to really say what they do. But Mercedes-Benz specifically said to Hamilton and Bottas nothing about team orders. So during the race, when we were saying Bottas looks surprised and frustrated, that's put more tension and more turmoil on them because they didn't say anything. They said nothing. So Bottas is like, oh, I could have gone a lap. I could have got past Verstappen. I was going to go quicker. And Hamilton said that on the radio. Lewis Hamilton specifically said, tell Bottas to speed up a little bit because I've got a blister and I need to look after it. And in that moment, Mercedes' PR team just panicked. They just screwed it all up. They messed up with Lewis Hamilton's pit stop. If they pitted the same lap of Vettel, they wouldn't be in this situation. They wouldn't have had Hamilton's blister on his tyre because he had to push hard to then make up for Mercedes' mistake. Hamilton and Bottas did not put a foot wrong in that Grand Prix. It was the team and it was the hierarchies that put the foot wrong in that race. If you're going to commit to team orders in the Grand Prix, I knew it was going to happen anyway. You've got to tell your drivers, right, we're using team orders in this race. And also, if you're going to use team orders in the race, tell your drivers that you're actually going to. Say, look, I know that you want to win and you want to fight this race, but we want to win the championship. We want to win both of them. And sure, I do believe at the end of the season, when Hamilton eventually wins the title, if he does, of course, anything can happen. I do believe that if he's winning and Bottas is in second, he will let Bottas through and get a race win that he thoroughly deserves this season. Because let's face it, Bottas, I've slagged him off a lot this year. But there have been races where he's deserved to win. In Bahrain, he should have won if he just decided to really go for it on Vettel. In Azerbaijan, he got robbed of a victory due to a puncture because of debris caused by Magnussen and Gasly. Where else has he lost victory? In Austria, he potentially could have won the Grand Prix. Yes, Hamilton was in front of him, but he had a mechanical issue. So he's had potential race wins there. In China as well, he lost it again in China because of the safety car, which he couldn't pit to get new tyres for. And he would have held off Vettel, I have no doubt about that. He's an incredibly talented defensive driver. In the British Grand Prix, they didn't really give him the best situation to win it. He was close with Vettel, but his tyres just went off the cliff. And they kind of screwed it up, which was dull again. So with all that momentum not there for Bottas, I think he could have been better throughout the season. But if you're going to tell someone you're going to do team orders, just tell it to them on track, because you just made it look worse. Like, you've got Valtteri there saying, you know, oh, I could have gone faster. And then he's saying, just to confirm, are we actually staying in these positions? Like, is Hamilton going to just win the race? Like, just tell him. Just say, look, Valtteri, in this race, we are committing to team orders for the championship, and we will repay you for this. And Bottas is, as much as you want to, you know, feel the sympathy for him, I feel it too, but Bottas has played a phenomenal team game that I don't think any other driver in Formula 1 would ever do, and he fully respects that he's in a racing team. He's an individual driver racing for a team. If he was in the championship fight and was a little bit further back, but still mathematically possible to win it by a good margin to do so, then sure, don't give team orders. Let them fight for it. But in this situation, just make it clear, and don't make it so obvious for Mercedes as well. Like, they just literally slowed him down by like 2 seconds. Like, if you're going to do it, like, do it when Hamilton's got nice and close and he's struggling in the dirty air. I still feel like Austria 2002 was the most dirtiest team order situation ever, because Barrichello led the whole race and literally slowed down on the line to give Schumacher the win. And I'm going to put it out there, I don't even like Schumacher anyway, but go away from that. That was probably the dirtiest of the team orders, and we've seen it so many times. Again with Ferrari, 2010, Fernando is faster than you. That was a clear, blatant team order, and we hated it. And we've seen it so many times this year, though, and I don't really understand why all the hate is ploughed on Mercedes for what they did. However, I also do know why it was as well. But at the same time, though, if Mercedes... Now, the reason that Mercedes have got so much hate for this is because this is a team order that has affected a race win. Bottas hasn't won yet this season. Hamilton deserves the title, in my opinion, just because of how he's done in the second half of the season for his performances. And probably maybe just beforehand as well. I just think overall he's been just a little bit better in what's been a mostly inferior car. There have been some tracks where Mercedes have been superior to Ferrari, but Ferrari have mostly been superior to Mercedes. But for me, the fact is this team order scenario affected the race. It's like 2010 all over again. It affected the race win. That's what happened the most. Let's go back to USA last year. Hamilton was leading the race. Raikkonen was in second. Vettel was in third. Vettel and Raikkonen swapped over. Team orders played by Ferrari. But this was to allow Vettel to limit the damage of his title championship. It was pretty much all but over at that stage. But again, it was to limit the damage. But did we really feel disgusted about it? Not really, because Raikkonen wasn't in the championship fight, and he played a team game, and he let Vettel through to help him in the championship. So, again, you know, you think, well, Bottas did the same thing, so why is that such a massive impact? But again, this is for a race win, which makes it more punishing, because Bottas is basically given up a race win, which will be on his career. Like, you go to Bottas's career, like 1 million race starts, this amount of wins, and then you rob one away from him, and he didn't put a foot wrong either. He didn't do anything wrong, and it's taken away from him like that. It's not fair for me. And that's what sucks the most. Like, if it was Vettel leading the race, Bottas in second, Hamilton in third, inflict team orders in that scenario, you'd have a completely different scenario push there. It would be, right, Vettel's going to gain either 10 points or 7 points. Let's get Hamilton in front, limit the damage in the championship. Perfectly fine scenario. But the fact it was for a race win, which robbed Bottas again, that's where the line draws. But again, though, what my problem is why were we not so angry with Ferrari in Germany in 2018? Ferrari used clear team orders to what would have been to let Vettel, and he would have won that race. I don't see Hamilton, Bottas, or Raikkonen beating him in Germany. But then if Vettel won the race, what would the headlines be? Would it be Sebastian Vettel wins the German Grand Prix after team orders moves Raikkonen aside? This is only the German Grand Prix. And Raikkonen's been used in China for helping Vettel. Yes, Bottas has been used in many races to help Hamilton. So, you know, it's the team game playing either side. So if you're going to hate on Mercedes, you have to hate Ferrari. In fact, you have to hate all the teams. This is how it works. This is racing. Racing is about making sure that you're a hardcore racer and you go out there to do anything to win. But if you're not in a title fight, you need to make sure that you are playing that team game and respecting that you are racing for a team in Formula 1. But yeah, so I think if Ferrari won it in Germany, I think team orders, again, they would have been slated for that. And again, you can say Mercedes was slated for using team orders in Germany because Hamilton was in front and they were like, nope, Bottas, don't overtake him. But that was for a different reason. Lewis was under investigation in Germany for crossing the white line in the pit lane, which I think should have been a 5-second time penalty. Like, I genuinely think it should have been. But obviously it wasn't because it was the safety car. It's yellow flags. Everyone has to slow down. There was no danger. But if they continued, if Bottas and Hamilton fought to the flag, then Hamilton may have been knocked off the podium because of the time they lost. They allowed Lewis to build a gap and he won the race, but he was below 5 seconds. So Mercedes did the right thing because they protected the Constructors' Championship here. If Hamilton got a 5-second time penalty, okay, doesn't matter. They'll just let Bottas through. Bottas will win the race by a couple of tenths. Hamilton gets second. 1-2 finish. No change in the Constructors. You let them fight. Hamilton gets a time penalty. Drop back a couple of places. Bottas wins the race, but you've lost a couple of handful of points. And in a championship so close this year between Mercedes and Ferrari, you can't afford to lose points like that. So that's the difference there between that style of team order and then a team order of just, right, here you go, get out the way, Bottas, basically. And I think what hurt the most is Lewis said on the post-race, you know, I think that Bottas should have just sped up. He literally just said on the radio, can you just speed up a little bit? And then as soon as Hamilton said that, Mercedes were like, panic. Right, Bottas, Lewis has got blisters on his tyres. He's under pressure from Vettel. Let him through. Excuses. No, Hamilton just said, speed up a little bit. And he said, no, don't let him through. Just tell him to go a little bit quicker for me so I can just get that buffer to maintain. And they were like, no. So it was the team that basically ruined it. And Bottas was like, yeah, I kind of knew it was coming, but I didn't really expect it at the same time. And once again, as soon as those team order sets came through, that he slowed instantaneously. So Lewis, even though he was arguing against what Mercedes wanted, he couldn't basically get things his own way because Bottas had already slowed and given him the position. But having a look at some of the articles here that I'm checking through. So Toto Wolff obviously is defending his decision to do so. He basically is stating, look, he'd rather be the baddie on this day than be an idiot for the rest of the season. And I completely agree in some senses. That, look, if you're going to win a championship, no matter how many points Lewis Hamilton's got, he has not won the championship. Anything can happen in Formula 1, and if it means that they have to give him every single ounce to get there as well and work as a team, they've got to do it. And it sucks because I hate it because it's not racing. That's where the division divides. As a team, you need to do what you have to do to win the race in fair and legal circumstances. But as a racing fan, which is what we all are, we want to see them race. We want to see them go for it. And the fact that they just can't, it's a bond that we can never bring together. The team can't say, why didn't Bottas let Lewis Hamilton through in that race when he clearly could have gained more points? Toto's not going to say, oh, because the fans wouldn't have liked it. No, because they're here as a team. They're here as a business. They're here to make money. And if they lose out in Constructors' Championship and Drivers' Championship as well, that affects money. That can affect sponsors. That can affect so many things. So it's a branch between team and fans that you can never combine as full as you think that you can. And Ferrari would have definitely done the same. In fact, Vettel said the same thing. I'm reading this article here. This one's from the BBC. Hashtag Jolyon Palmer actually thinks that this was true as well in this circumstance. And he believes, obviously, you know, this was the right cause. And again, he states, again, that comfortable cushion gap. But Toto Wolff, you know, he was saying the same thing. He said, you know, admitting it doesn't feel right. He thinks that this was the right decision for a team, but the wrong decision as a racer. And it's the perfect explanation. For a team, they did what they needed to do, and they did it right, and it had to be done. As a racer, that's the wrong thing to do, and the fact that Bottas slowed by over 2 seconds made it feel more disgusting than it really should have been. Just make Bottas lift off a tiny bit without compromising himself on the straight into turn 1, and then you wouldn't have that problem. And then again, even Sebastian Vettel commented on this. Vettel was asked on here what did he think of it, and how would they have managed the situation. Vettel described the swap as a no-brainer. So for all those Ferrari fans that feel the same way about this, in terms of Mercedes, you know, team orders, you idiots, you know, number one, Ferrari have done this before. Everyone's done it before. Every team's done it, you know. Oh, let me pass Grosjean because I've got faster tyres at this stage of the race. Let me through in that circumstance. And Vettel said it straight there. It's a no-brainer. You've got to win the championship, and you've got to do it no matter what. And it's that thing of doing what the team needs to do to win versus what the racers want to see to have a win. You're never going to get that balance. And that's kind of how it is. So there's arguments for it. There's arguments against it. How do I feel of it? I felt it was the right decision to give Hamilton the best chance to win the championship, but I felt it was the wrong decision because we missed out on a race, and that's what we pay our money for, to subscribe monthly, especially for like F1 TV or Sky F1 in my case. I'm paying monthly to watch these guys race, not for an organised result. That's the biggest problem. But from a team's perspective, they had to do what they had to do. So that's kind of where I'm figuring out from it. But lastly then, this video's gone on for quite a while, but I'm now going to go ahead and read what you guys said. So overall then, after that came through, I went ahead and created this poll. Again, I'm going to bring it up to the camera so you can see it. So I specifically said, okay, do you think team orders should be banned? Do you think team orders should be restricted? Or do you think they should be banned full stop? And again, we've got all these comments. So I'm going to read through a couple of them. Not going to go through loads. And I'm just going to, you know, go through some points. So I'm going to go through the top comments. I'm going to go through probably about 5 or 6. So this first one comes in from Robert James Simpson. Again, thank you very much for commenting. And you have gone with ban team orders full stop. I'm a big NASCAR fan, and in the form of motorsport, there's a boys have it at it mentality around the garage, and just how racing should be. I definitely see why F1 teams sometimes utilize team orders, but they can limit the competitiveness of the races. I tune into F1 to see racing, not team orders. Racing is a cutthroat, elbows out sport played by gentlemen and scoundrels alike who feel better, a little better when they're out of edge. And when in doubt, drive it like you stole it. You couldn't have put that any right if I tried, to be honest. You're right. F1 drivers are going at it, and Hamilton and Bottas said the same thing. They wanted to race, but the team said otherwise. And in this circumstances, team orders ruined a race, but it helped the team. So it's a bit of a different one there. Next up from Full Throttle Car Guy. So again, thank you very much for your comment. Restrict team orders so you can only pass car ahead. That's kind of where I was going with it. The restrict team orders, one was sort of like in Hungary last year for Mercedes. You know, Hamilton was let through by Bottas to try and attack the Ferraris. It didn't work. He gave the position back. That's a fair team order in my eye. And we sort of were like, oh, Mercedes team orders, screw you. And we hated them when they did it. And then Hamilton gave the place back. And we're like, what a true gentleman. So, you know, it is what it is. But he says, I want it to be where you can't just let someone through to help them out in the championship, and everyone should be fighting for the points. I was really disgusted when Bottas was told to let Hamilton pass, even though I am myself a Ferrari fan. Although in some cases team orders might be a good idea, I would rather prefer that a penalty is given if something like that was ever done to pass your teammate if you had the advantage over him, and not given the position, in quotes, for free. By the way, keep up the good work. I kind of agree with it. Again, though, it's the same thing. You can never balance racing and team play together. Providing a penalty for making an overtake in a team order perspective, I just don't think policing it is why we should do that. I don't know. I respect, obviously, your comment, and I'm not going to try and make you change your mind. No one has the right to change their mind just because of what I say. I'm just bringing out a nice long debate about it, that's all. T-Money77 says, that's why F1 races are boring in some tracks. It took the fun out to watch the Sochi's GP. I agree with the second half, don't agree with the first half. Races are not boring at some tracks just because of the team orders. Some tracks just boring. I mean, the Russian Grand Prix, that was the best Russian Grand Prix we've had since 2014 when it was introduced. But it definitely, like you said, it took the fun out of it. Like, we knew Hamilton's just going to waltz off now and win, whereas we didn't know that beforehand. We knew that Hamilton had to pass Vettel and Bottas, and he made us have a fun and entertaining watch by overtaking. But then, of course, when Bottas just let him through, that then ruined the fun of it. So I see where you're coming from there. Kyle W says, ban team orders full stop. The way I see it, team orders do have a place in F1, but I think they should just be banned to a disagree. I think they are being abused by teams overusing team orders for drivers and championship points. I think they only should be used in case of racing that should become dangerous. For an example, Ricardo and Verstappen in Baku come into mind, or maybe in case significantly slowing a car holding up his teammate. I can see where you're coming from. I was extremely disappointed watching Bottas being told once again to yield to Hamilton. I would understand if there were more than a reason than points, but if the team orders are being used purely for the betterment of a hashtag #1 driver, that was in quotation marks, in the Drivers' Championship, team orders just ruin any possible entertainment or fairness in the sport. Again, you're pretty much bang on with that one. Ricardo and Verstappen had crashes. You've got to limit team orders. Force India now using team orders because of the crashes in the Singapore Grand Prix. I still disagree that Hamilton is a #1 driver. I just think that because Bottas has had so much bad luck, he's lost out on points, lost out on momentum. Hamilton's in the title race, so now you've got to prioritise Hamilton over Bottas because of positioning. You've got to use Bottas as the defensive mechanism and Hamilton as the attacking mechanism. So at the moment, Lewis is #1 driver because he's the #1 driver to win the championship. Bottas isn't, but before that, there were no team orders in that sense. So yeah, I can see where you're coming from in that circumstance. Lucas says, I don't think they should be banned full stop, but the F1 should implement rules and penalties about them. Still, they have an unsportsmanlike and take away the fun from races. Again, they take away fun from races, but if you bring penalties into it, I just feel like there's just going to be so much more stupid debate about it that teams just won't let it through, for me, in my opinion. I'm going to read this one next because it's actually stating why they shouldn't be banned. All F1 teams say they prioritise the constructors, therefore they have to play their cards in a fashion that ensures the team the most amount of points. Many of you seem to forget this. They consider it a team sport, not who is the best driver. If it were to be the case that they'd employ the driver who is wanting to win the World Championship and then employ a driver who is used as a battering ram to fend off all of the drivers, but they can employ drivers who are the best they can, to make the team as successful as they can. That is where the money is at for them and the sponsors. I'm not a fan of team orders, but it's a tactical game to play, and that is why it is they employ the strategists. If Hamilton and Bottas were to squabble, it would let the Ferraris catch up and put Mercedes' race strategy out the window. So they would let him pass and make sure both Mercedes were up there. Stevie Wonder, this was that commented this one. I like this one, and for me, he gets this one very right. He's put it perfectly. You know, the 1-2 in the Constructors is not being affected. It's the other scenario which is being affected now. It's the Drivers' Championship which is being affected. You keep the Drivers' Championship benefiting your driver, and you keep the Constructors as a team benefiting you. Another one from 48 Fan from Key. Sorry if I pronounced it wrong. Team orders should not be banned. It's just part of the sport. Teams will favour one driver over another. I don't think they favour Hamilton over Bottas. They're both equal. It's just because Lewis is in a position to win the championship, Bottas isn't. And like you said, this is part of a team sport. It's ugly that we see it, and I don't like it as a racing fan, but it has to be implemented if you're in a team. This is how a team plays. You know, you've got to work together. I just think, for me, if they were going to do it, just tell your drivers, like, you're going to do it. And I know it hurts, but just tell them. Don't, like, continue to make them question. Don't make Bottas, like, what happened? Oh, explain it after the race. We'll do this after the race. Like, no, you tell me beforehand, because you make me look stupid in the race. You make yourself look stupid after the race, because you can see my facial expressions that I'm extremely pissed off that I've just lost a race because you're not going to tell me it in the first place. That's where it's wrong for me, in my opinion. And again, another one coming in then from, I'm going to leave this one as the last one. Team order should not be banned, from Anthony Man 49. We always say that in Formula 1, it's not solely the driver and his abilities, but also the car. Since the car plays a huge role in the game, constructors should too. That's where the team role and strategy comes in. The two drivers may be on a different tyre strategy for various reasons, strategic ones. Sometimes it looks like it's decided on how their performance looks like on the Friday, Saturday, and what tyres they have left. It's pretty much the same thing with the drivers changing position, strategy. The only wrong thing about this is Bottas, in this case Bottas, in other cases there may be other drivers, didn't know what the plan was and asked if they were going to change back for original position since Lewis was safe from Vettel, which didn't happen. I'm going to love heart that comment because it's perfectly right. The team game had to be played, but you've said it exactly. You're on the same line as me. If you're going to do team orders, you've got to tell them. You cannot leave them in the dark on this one. So Mercedes-Benz, for me, overall, pretty much putting it into perspective, as a racer, it was wrong. We saw a race which we knew the result for before it even ended. The team orders was right because we're playing a team game. However, what's also wrong is how far Bottas was ahead when they let him through, Hamilton through that is, and the fact that Bottas didn't know anything about it, and again, made him question, made him look silly. He was looking at Hamilton's tyre to see where the blister was. He knew nothing about it and looked dull on the podium and left the crowd stunned, which wasn't really fair. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for the debate. Feel free to let me know in the comment section down below how you personally felt about this entire situation. Please be mature of everyone's opinions and also mine myself. If you decide to go hostility and attack with violent language towards myself or anyone else, you'll be banned from the channel. So be respectful on that. That is the debate. If you want to see this as a nice little big series where I'll just debate anything that goes on in Formula 1 and I'll go out there and prove why it's right and wrong, or maybe it's just right or maybe just wrong, let me know. But until then, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care all. Peace.